Good morning, everyone. My name is Justin Sears, and I run product marketing at Lucidworks. I'm very excited to be co-presenting today with Peter Curran, president and co-founder of Sears 10. Peter's an expert consultant on designing web e-commerce architectures for major brands like Barnes & Noble, Foot Locker, and Costco, to name just a few. Peter and I will be discussing how to create the ideal customer experience for digital commerce without giving up control of your merchandising, brand, or customer experience. Peter will share some insights on good and not so good e-commerce experiences that he's seen, and I'll explain how Lucidworks' solution for digital commerce can help merchandisers use our platform, Lucidworks Fusion, to harness the powerful AI in Fusion to reduce the amount of time they spend maintaining business rules and to free up time to focus more on creating an experience that improves sales. We've left plenty of time at the end of the presentation to answer questions, so please send those to us in the Q&A, and we'll answer them toward the end of the webinar. Before Peter comes in to share some real-world examples of some search and browse experiences, let me set the stage a bit. You already know how customer expectations are changing. Forrester tells us that 36% of U.S. online adults believe that retailers should offer them more personalized experiences. Gartner and others have confirmed that sellers that personalize customer experience see greater levels of customer engagement and higher retention. And trends like these led Fast Company to conclude that retailers need to compete with Amazon by providing something that Amazon can't: high-quality, human-touch customer service. Peter, let me turn it over to you now. Tell us more about what that means for e-commerce merchandisers.
Yeah, thanks, Justin, and good day, everybody. Yeah, before I talk about what it means for merchandisers, let me talk a little bit about what it means for customers and kind of give you a little bit of a customer journey story. So I don't know what you guys are shopping for this time of year, but the weather's improving in Seattle, and I'm starting to think about camping. And my daughter loves to go camping. My son loves to go camping. My dog really loves to go camping, but my wife does not like to go camping. And so thinking about how I can change that this year, I started, as one does, on a YouTube video. And if you look closely at the screenshot here, you can see that this is a tent that is connected to the walls of like a canyon. Now, this is not the way to get my wife to go camping with me, of course, but it might be a little bit more comfortable than sleeping on the ground if we put these into, strap them into a tree. So I'm thinking that's pretty cool. That might change her mind if I can get one that's big enough for all of us. So I'm going to go shopping. So now that I've seen the video, I kind of know what I'm looking for. This video is called it says Crazy Tree Hammock Tent, and then it says the name of the manufacturer, Tent Style Tents. So that's cool. So I'm going to go to Google, as one does. I search for what they called it, tree hammock tent. And Google's been helpful to give me some examples of a tree hammock tent that I can just go straight up and buy right now. But I don't want to do that. I don't want to just go to a product details page. I want to kind of look at a variety of different products. And I see that they've also got me a paid link here to go to the Tent Style website, the company that makes these things. I don't want to do that either. I want to look at a variety of different manufacturers, all together on one page. So I search again. And this time I search for the word that comes to my mind when I think about this kind of thing. I think of it as a suspension tent. And when I do that, I get the same set of helpful links to a PDP page, but I, more importantly, see a link there at the bottom that says Moose Jaw has a suspended tent. Now, this is a paid link, but I don't care. It tells me that, Moose Jaw, online site that I'm already familiar with has got a page for this kind of a tent. So I click through on that, and I get to this page, which is about tents, but it's not about suspended tents. It's about, typical, tents that use the poles that you have to, fit together and hammer into the ground and all the rest of that stuff. So this isn't really what I was expecting, but that's cool. I'm going to go up into the search box, and as I start to move up there, I notice that, this is a search results page. This is the search results page for tents, and probably, any combination of terms that includes tents is something that Moosejaw is buying on, and then, taking me to this tents search results page. Kind of an interesting analytics problem for them to think about. What does this mean when so many people are doing searches this way? This, of course, isn't really a search. It's just a click out of Google. But anyway, I go up to the upper left, and now I'm going to type the thing that I remember first from the YouTube video. And I search for tree hammock tent. And it's, what's this? So sorry, we weren't able to find what you were looking for. Try one of the following search tips. I'm pretty sure I didn't spell it wrong. But, I recognize that tree hammock tent is probably not the right vernacular. Obviously, it didn't return the Moosejaw site when I searched that way on Google. And I think, all right, Peter, you're being a knucklehead, use the right language. So I used the one that used the term that I used before, suspendable tent. And again, I get the zero results page. So sorry. I try a different variation, suspension tent. I get a promo for 20% off, but then I get some ropes and straps. So this is not the suspension tent, right? These are the straps, and I'm kind of wondering, wait a minute, does this mean that I can take my normal tent and suspend it? Do I need I know that there was a special tent that I saw in the YouTube video, but are they saying I can retrofit mine, or I'm not really sure because I'm not that informed about suspension tents. So what do? I bail on Moosejaw and I go to REI. And I search for the first thing that I searched for, again, that I saw in the YouTube video, tree hammock tent, and boom, there's some tree hammock tents. If I do that in a different way, I search for suspendable tent. I get some tents, again, that look like the kind that I'm interested in, variety of different manufacturers. And again, if I search for suspension tent, kind of interesting, I get a zero results experience, but unlike the Moosejaw zero results experience, where it just says, sorry, check your spelling, here they are giving me recommendations that are on point. So I'm getting the ropes and straps, again, that Moosejaw gave me, and I'm not wild about those results. But notice that the first recommendation is a suspension tent. So that's really cool. The thing that is really, annoying about this, if you are Moosejaw, is that if you look here's the product details page for the suspension tent. I look down in the product description, and they actually straight up call it a suspendable tent in the product description. So, as a customer, I'm a little bit, disappointed. As a merchandiser, as a buyer who writes this product copy, I'm disappointed that a customer, though they may try 3 and, different searches, land here from a paid link on Google, was unable to find what we were looking for, even though I've used exactly the words that the buyer has used. The search person in me, though, knows that you don't always index product description, because if you look a little bit further into this, it talks about, connecting a fly sheet and challenge your hammock buddy to a game of cards. Now you can imagine if I index this and somebody searches for cards or hammock or fly, then this treehouse hammock tent is going to be coming back. So I sympathize with their search engineer at Moosejaw, who said, we don't want to index product description because there's too much, noise in that field. But nevertheless, it's disappointing that I'm unable to find the product through many tries. And so what is the answer to this? Well, the most interesting, advance in e-commerce to me in the last few years is probably two of them. One of them is cloud. The second one is AI. And if you look at investments in AI, they are really concentrated in the 6 logos that you see here. And I learned a really interesting way to remember this. These are called the G Mafia. So Google, Microsoft, Amazon, Facebook, IBM, and Apple being the GMAFIA, G Mafia. These are the guys who are pouring millions and millions of dollars into AI research. So how is it that a company like REI or like Moose Jaw, which is, I think, part of Walmart, how can they compete with Amazon and IBM and Microsoft's investments in AI? And so, Justin, maybe you can talk a little bit about how Lucidworks does that.
Thanks, Peter. I guess I would describe that build versus buy decision or trade-off with a haiku. This is original work that I put together for this webinar. Business rules don't scale. Thank you. Thank you. Kleenex will be passed around. Business rules don't scale. AI takes months to model. Merchandisers groan.
Beautiful. Touching.
And here's why, to go into a little more detail, here's why so few companies have built their own digital commerce platform with those advanced AI capabilities, some of which you pointed out earlier, Peter. It's hard and it's expensive. At Lucidworks, we know how complex this is because we took it on 12 years ago. You would need to write code to ingest data generated by systems, humans, and applications. Then you would write more code for indexing, searching, faceting, filtering, relevancy, ranking, analytics, machine learning, and visualization, to name just a few things. And then you'd have to bundle it all together in a digital commerce platform that can perform at scale. All of these steps would mean for an e-commerce team, they'd be taking time and money away from their core business. So when we're talking with prospects and clients about this, we say, why build it from scratch when Lucidworks Fusion provides those integrated capabilities, which have already been hardened and operated at scale for some of the world's largest e-commerce sites. And another way to think about this is we simplify really the view of how this looks. So Lucidworks Fusion incorporates, first of all, we take care of the data ingest on the left side, but then Lucidworks Fusion incorporates AI and machine learning throughout the platform. So as your customers enjoy a personalized experience searching and browsing your products, you can continuously curate that experience to provide an ever-improving level of service. And we'll do the heavy lifting on the back end and then allow you to configure the front end with an attractive UI. So quick example, we're going to apply AI on data ingest to classify it for future discovery with NLP. Then when the user runs a query on the data stored in Fusion Server, AI determines their intent, even when they misspell words or use synonyms, things like that, to return the most relevant results. So basically, Lucidworks Fusion will make your products, services, and unique brand message accessible and relevant to your shoppers. If I go into a little more detail on what each of those steps contains, and I'll keep it brief because there's lots here. For example, when the data first comes into Fusion, we use AI, as I mentioned. We can apply natural language processing to detect phrases, topics, and parts of speech. This allows us to classify and cluster documents in ways that make the content easily accessible for search, browsing, and machine learning. Fusion Server, moving one to the right, is architected on leading open source projects, Apache Solr and Apache Spark, which store and process the data for search and discovery at scale. Both our business rules engine and our continuous ML tuning of the entire experience take advantage of Fusion Server for things like schedule and alerting, ETL pipelines, and SQL queries. And then once a shopper runs a query or clicks on a widget in the browser experience, Fusion invokes AI again to determine the shopper's intent, return the most relevant results, like you were showing in the REI example, Peter, and proactively recommend other items that he or she hasn't explicitly searched for. And then finally, Fusion App Studio allows our clients to easily configure attractive, intuitive front-end applications that can access the data in Fusion Server and deliver personalized experiences for different users. Fusion has a distributed architecture, so its operations are extensible, scalable, cloud-ready, and we offer cross-data center replication, CDCR, as well as enterprise-grade security. So at a high level, Lucidworks Fusion will help you, if you're an e-commerce provider or merchandiser, provide your customers with a hyper-personalized shopping experience, so you can focus on distinguishing your brand, your products, and your customer service. Our platform is proudly built with core open source technologies I mentioned, Apache Solr and Apache Spark. It hyper-personalizes the shopping experience with applied machine learning, and it has already been proven at scale on the world's biggest e-commerce websites. With Fusion, we help our clients deliver the ideal online experience. At a high level, this solution will deliver real-time, personalized, relevant search results, production-ready ML for discovery and product recommendations, machine intelligence at scale with humans in charge, and we'll talk more about what that means in a minute. So, Peter, I want to go back to you. We've mentioned rules engines in passing, and our recent release of Fusion 4.2 includes a business rules manager, which is an intuitive interface that makes it far easier to add and modify rules and trigger specific actions as certain search queries come in. Why is that important for merchandisers who use Fusion?
Yeah, thanks, Justin. Let me talk about that for a minute. So I think, rules aren't inherently evil. You need rules, and we'll talk about some of that a little bit later. But let me talk about a thing that's happening in retail e-commerce and that is putting pressure on companies, and that is the idea of a marketplace. So if you're not familiar with what I mean by a marketplace, I'm talking about a retailer that already carries a number of different brands and stuff from different manufacturers, but all of a sudden decides we're going to open this up to third-party sellers and take control of the transaction on our existing website. And so just like you can see this picture of a marketplace, I think this is in LA somewhere, I'm not wrong, or maybe Philadelphia. But you can see that, each of these different stalls in this market, they've got slightly different branding and they're carrying different stuff, and they have different signs and ways that they talk about the things that they're selling, and people browse through and in that, market, find the thing that they're looking for. But it's a little bit harder to do on a website. So let's talk about whether marketplaces are a big deal or not for a second. Some statistics, I won't read them all to you here, but only a few retailers are doing marketplaces right now, but just about everybody wants to. And it's important because half of the stuff that Amazon sells is coming from a third-party seller. And believe it or not, everybody thinks of Amazon as being this behemoth, specifically in the U.S. market. But they're only the third largest market behind two others in China. And I think if you add those two Chinese marketplaces together, it's more than triple, maybe even quadruple the size of what Amazon is doing. And then Amazon's is 3 times bigger than eBay's, which is the only other American company in the top 5. So marketplaces are a big thing. And companies like Best Buy and Walmart, who set up marketplaces in Canada, they doubled their assortment by doing this. So all of a sudden they go from having 500,000 SKUs to 1 million SKUs or 2 million SKUs. And, usually that is the initial change that happens overnight. But that's just the beginning, right? These are programs that if they're successful, they're going to want to expand and bring more and more brands in. more third parties in to help sell things. So, it's conceivable that you would have a quadrupling or quintupling of your assortment breadth and depth, within a couple of years. So if you're managing your search and browse experience based on rules and you implement a strategy like this, then you're in real trouble, because you're not going to be able to manage, rules for 2 million SKUs. So let's look at an example of this. I feel like in these webinars we pick on companies, and I don't mean to pick on Moose Jaw, and I don't mean to pick on Urban Outfitters, but I'm going to do it anyway. The story here, this is from their earnings call about this time last year, which was the first quarter of their fiscal 2019. And the CEO or CFO, whoever's talking in this quote, this comes from Seeking Alpha, is just talking about how they've tested it out on Anthropologie and on Urban Outfitters, and after some testing, they're going to roll out some more brands and stuff in their marketplace. So just like I was talking about, they're going to add more and more products in through their marketplace technology. It's important to note that the marketplace is really just a way to kind of connect these third parties into the purchasing ecosystem. It's not helping you at all with search and the most of the experience on the website. Maybe there are a few places where you can see that a product is coming from a third party, like on the PDP, for example, or you might notice something different in the shipping details. But in terms of product discovery, search and browse, usually that core capability remains untouched by the marketplace introduction. So let's look at some things with Urban Outfitters. So you'll be happy to know that I'm not going to go too far into a search for lingerie on Urban Outfitters, but that's what I searched for. They have intimates available at Urban Outfitters, and so here I have searched for lingerie. And, that third item there may start to look like lingerie, but the first two items are bodysuits that the models are wearing pants with, thank goodness. And the fourth item there is some lip gloss. So, if I'm Urban Outfitters, I might not be super wild about this set of search results for that term. Interestingly, what caught my eye is that there is a facet for gender over on the left. And so I just have to know, what is the lingerie that's available for men? So I click that. And unfortunately, I don't see men's lingerie here. They don't seem to have any, but I do see slip-on Vans. I think, what is that? I love slip-on Vans, but this is not the lingerie that I was expecting to see. This is Jeff Spicoli stuff here, not lingerie. So I'm going to go a little bit further here and look a little bit closer at the top, and you can see it says I searched for lingerie, and their popular searches are for a bralette, a thong, and a slip. And so bralette and thong, that seems related to lingerie, but slip, if you think about it, is probably related to lingerie, certainly related to an intimates or an underwear kind of category. But that is also the word that you use to describe the way you put on the Vans. So here, if we've got a rule that is, and whether that rule is, and I don't know what search technology these guys use, but this is not our customer or anything, but if you've got a rule in there, whether the rule was created by a machine or the rule was created by a person, that says a slip is something that should pull back, slip should pull back lingerie, and you're not thinking about the fact that you're selling, slip-on Vans because you're in a lingerie, curation state of mind, then you're going to get erroneous results like this. Now, this isn't the worst thing in the world. There are probably all of their intimates products are coming back, and I'm able to, filter if I'm looking for something specific, some new underwear or whatever. I'm able to filter my way into the stuff that I want to buy. But still, it's a little bit of a undesirable experience here. And you can just imagine how this rule got created. Once the a rule is like a purchase. Once you buy something, you don't only just pay to pay for it, you got to pay to store it in your house somewhere. And rules are like that too. It's not just that you can put a rule into your platform, but that you have to go back and look at it as your assortment changes and make sure that rule is still good, and therefore incur a storage and review type cost. Interestingly, if I actually search this website for slip, I'm still getting the slip-on bands and pillow covers and things like that. I get a garment on the right that might start to be relevant. It's not lingerie; it's a slip dress, and I think they have a variety of that kind of dress available at Urban Outfitters. Let's look at the Anthropologie site. My wife came home last week with a pair of pants from Anthropologie that she really likes. She likes the way they fit. They came, I think, in a red color. She really wanted a camo color, but the camo color wasn't available in her size. So she bought the red ones and came home and showed them to me and said, I like them. I also want to get some in camo. And so I searched up camo pants here on the Anthropologie site, and I showed these to her. I said, hey, is this what you were looking for? And she kind of looked at them and said, no, they're different than that. I said, oh, really? How are they different? And she said, oh, they're called like the Wanderer or something like that. And I said, oh, okay. Let me search for the Wanderer. And I searched for it in camo Wanderer. And it comes back and says, we don't have that. And I said, are you sure that it was called the Wanderer and that it came in camo? And she said, yeah, I'm totally sure that it was the camo Wanderer. It's like, all right, so but again, being a person who understands how search works, sometimes giving a search engine more information is a worse technique to finding what you're looking for. And it's a pity that, people have to think this way, but I know that as an experienced shopper. So I'm going to change my search now to Wanderer, show it to her and say, is this what you're looking for? And she says, yeah, that's it right there. The third one is the camo Wanderer. And now if I go back, is that not in the set of 8 results? I look and it isn't in that set of 8 results. It's not that we missed it. It's that it's not there. And if you're wondering, is that garment actually camo, we can look at the product details page here, and you can see from the picture it's absolutely camo-colored garment. But if you look closely there at the little dot, it's called moss. So that's the problem, is they have given this color a name like moss instead of calling it camo. So, here is another place where you can absolutely sympathize with the retailer and the way that they're managing their content, their data about their products, and also managing their search with rules. But here is an example, and this, by the way, this is not some phony example that I made up for a webinar. This is an actual shopping experience that we had. My wife literally wanted to buy these, came home with a different color of these pants and wanted to buy the camo ones. So this is real stuff. And, when a search engine doesn't bring back a product, that is the most harmful. It's not as bad when you bring back too many products as it is when you don't bring back products, because if the person can't filter their way and sort their way to the product because you haven't brought it back, there's just no way they can buy it. And there's only so much patience you can expect somebody to have. So the bottom line is that relying on people to manage rules and manage data is something that has limitations. And in the case where you have a marketplace of expanding assortment, that becomes a really tricky problem indeed. So here, I'll hand it back to you, Justin, to talk a little bit more about how Lucidworks automates some of the stuff.
Thanks, Peter. When you were just describing the Camo Wanderer, we would think about that as a curation challenge. You mentioned more SKUs coming in. The merchandising teams are already busy trying to understand how to offer the right products and work with natural language, et cetera. And so we at Lucidworks, we see the need to offer both a rules engine and machine learning, and Lucidworks Fusion lets merchandisers use both so they can curate their customers' experiences. You see the image here really bringing together the human hand and the robot hand to symbolize machine learning, which can provide the continuous suggestions on how to improve the shopper experience. And those suggestions are sometimes delivered to the back-end administrator of the system, sometimes front-end suggestions, did you mean type recommendations to the customer. But the point is that the owner of the Lucidworks Fusion platform gets to determine that. So merchandisers can apply a human touch. They can accept or reject the system's automatic recommendations. And they can also maintain a smaller set of rules where machine learning doesn't offer the right touch. So machine learning can really offload a lot of the rote kind of just day-to-day maintenance that needs to happen, again, with a button to accept or reject those suggestions from the system. And what we see is that really frees up merchandisers to focus on what they like doing better and where they can have a bigger impact on the bottom line for their companies. So I'm going to show these examples, Peter, aren't as real world as what you were showing, but I want to show a couple of examples of this curation capability with a couple of screenshots. So this example shows some of the benefits of Fusion to curate the consumer experience. So in this hypothetical clothing e-tailer, the shopper is looking at search results in wintertime, and yet the search results are returning some items like earrings and ties, probably not in peak demand during times of cold weather. And so here's where the merchandiser can analyze user behavior, look for relevance gaps, and boost certain products based on her human insight and understanding that the ML might just not be able to pick up, such as the fact that a promotion is just launched or that there's a huge winter storm coming in, can adjust with that information and expertise. And then using the Fusion UI, the merchandiser can analyze that user behavior, look for relevance gaps, boost certain products based on that insight, and better results come back instantly. So in this one example, this is an example of what Peter and I mean with the title of this webinar, really. The company is using machine learning and search indexing on Fusion to create the ideal customer experience, but the machines have not taken over. Instead, AI is making the merchandising team far more powerful by improving the customer experience, or I should say more powerful to improve the customer experience, which boosts metrics like add to cart and average order value. Peter, I'd like to toss it back to you. Talk a little bit about why this curation flexibility is so important.
Yeah, sure. So, I don't know about you, but if I got into a self-driving car, I would hold on to the steering wheel and keep my foot near the brake. And I think that running a website is kind of the same way. There are challenges with gathering data about what people are doing on the website. You may not have the website tagged right, or you may be doing something erroneous in the way that you crunch the data about what people are doing on the website. So there are, first of all, some places where you want to have some manual control, but more importantly, a lot of the kinds of companies that are best suited for this technology, they have a brand to uphold, and telling a brand story is nothing to do with how you order products or recall products. Or maybe not nothing to do with it, but the storytelling part of it is critical to supporting the brand. And so you want to have the ability to both sort of automate things in certain scenarios and take all of the manual work off of your shoulders, but in other scenarios, grab onto the wheel or touch the brakes in order to, apply the right branding polish or, other, merchandising type polish. So managing rules is not something that you want to totally go away, something that you want to do, but you want to do it not for stupid problems and spelling problems and things like that that machine learning can handle, but for more purposeful reasons.
Thanks, Peter. And I want to pause for a second and remind everybody that we left plenty of time to answer questions. There's a Q&A box at the bottom of the portal. So really hope that we have a chance to answer some questions on some of the topics that we're discussing. So back to what Lucidworks Fusion can offer. We are also, of course, very good at search. In fact, it's a critical component of both digital commerce, and we built our reputation as the driving force behind Apache Solr for distributed search on big data. And so Lucidworks Fusion is excellent for delivering relevant search results before the shopper even knows to ask. And what that means is we can personalize search at scale and deliver relevant results, like I said, before the shopper even knows to ask after the query. So here's another hypothetical example to show that a little bit. The search results, this user has searched for iPad, and the search results might look like this from an unsophisticated search system without Fusion's search relevance tuning functionality in place. So when a user searches for iPad, you can see in this hypothetical example that the results do not actually show an iPad device, but accessories with the word iPad in their titles. And here's an example of Fusion's query workbench, where merchandisers or administrators can configure relevance to display results based on an individual user's behavior or what other users have deemed relevant in the past. This is another example of how Fusion lets you apply human touch to the automatic search indexing that Fusion does. And then, of course, we see results like this. They might have looked for iPad. They're looking for iPad again with those back-end tools enabled, and now Fusion's automatic relevancy returns far better results for the same search on iPad, showing actual iPad devices. Peter, I know that you've worked with a lot of companies on their search for e-commerce. What kinds of impacts have you seen when clients implement Fusion's search capabilities?
Yeah, it really varies. I think the place where most people look for an impact from the search investment is going to be in, conversion rates in search, and you certainly will see lift in those areas. If you haven't paid any attention at all to, how search results come back and you've never done any tuning, then you'll quite likely see an enormous lift. If you've done a lot of rule-based tuning, you typically will also see quite a significant lift, particularly on long-tail queries where you just don't have the hours in the day available to do all the curation into the long tail. Those will be a place where you'll get some lift by making your tuning more algorithmic. But then, there are some other, metrics that people will look at, reducing, metrics, increasing time on the site, metrics like exit, increasing time on the site. Some companies will argue about whether conversion should be measured as a click-through to PDP or an actual purchase. A lot of times search can help you optimize for either one of those, depending on how you like to measure conversion. There are a variety of different metrics that we can improve, and the lift that some of the companies that have implemented Fusion have seen has been significant enough in some of those cases. I don't know about all of them, but in some of those cases to return the investment within a matter of literally days. So it can be quite an enormous and quick return.
Great, thanks, Peter. And then let's go to the last large big area, the browsing challenge, and this has to do with some of the challenges that you were bringing up, Peter, about new product information coming in and personalizing the browsing experience with that. E-commerce platforms need to run, scale, and maintain their ML models for recommendations on product browsing. And this gets to kind of the difference between search and browse. Search works well when shoppers come to the site with a clear idea of what they want to buy, but modern digital commerce platforms also need to give shoppers a personalized browsing experience. So even when they're not exactly sure what they're looking for, they can find the right products. And merchandisers that use Fusion to run, scale, and maintain ML models for personalized recommendations and product browsing also see similar uplift and benefits that they do see with search. So the last hypothetical example, to drill into that a little bit more, to illustrate Fusion's recommendation capability, here's a hypothetical example showing a search for camera on a fictional website, and it returns what seems to be a seemingly generic set of results. With Fusion's recommendation engine, e-commerce teams can easily make personalized suggestions to specific users based on attributes like search history, browse history, and purchase history. So by tuning those recommendation engines with Fusion, the system knows that the shopper, in this case, is a high-value customer with a taste for expensive gear. So the product recommendation is personalized based on that information, suggesting a top-end camera that another shopper with a different profile might not even see. So this hyper-personalization reduces cart abandonment, it improves cross-sell and upsell, it increases the average order value, and it makes customers more loyal to sites that make it easier for them to find what they need. Peter, let me turn it back to you again. What are some examples of that personalized browsing that you've seen?
Well, I mean, I think before you even get to personalized browsing, kind of step back a few steps and say, if you look at the browse experience on most e-commerce websites, the every node in the browsing hierarchy is ordered exactly the same way. They'll have kind of in the worst case, some companies will order things from most expensive to least expensive. Slightly better will be showing best-selling items to worst-selling items. The advantage of browse is that you don't have to worry about what products to recall. You might not have a lot of flexibility in your PIM or in your e-commerce platform for how you want to organize all of your products. So you could use Fusion to expand the way that you organize products and build navigation on the website. But the first step is to get away from a site-wide sort of dumb sort. There are certain categories where it's going to make sense to sort by bestsellers or by price one direction or another. There are going to be other places where you want to show new products. There are going to be other places where you're going to want to blend sales and price information in order to kind of create a more intelligent merchandise, sort and browse. So, I would say that's the first place to start. And then when it comes to personalization, there are, always signals that, are going to be provided by you guests as they go through the search experience, or even provided, directly in their profile if they're logged in, that you can use to order products in a way that's a little bit more interesting for them. So, like, for example, for me, REI might be able to pick up that, because I am buying a tent that will hold, 4 people and a dog, that I'm probably a family. And so it might want to offer me larger size items, like maybe if I'm getting a water jug or something like that for the campsite, it's going to give me one that's 5 gallons, or it's going to give me a Yeti cooler that's extra large as opposed to the small one. Even though the small one may be a better seller, that extra large one is going to be one that's more likely to work for me. So because they think that I have a family that I camp with. So, things like that are things that you can do with this, tend to be a little bit more advanced. Things that you can do with this kind of technology, probably not a phase 1 thing that you would do with it, but are kinds of examples of things that people can do with it.
Great, thanks, Peter. And I want to say that we do have questions coming in, so I want to thank the folks that have submitted questions already, and keep the call going. So if you have any other questions, we'll got a couple more closing slides, and then we'll open it up for questions. So, to sum up some of what we talked about, taken together the combined benefits that we walked through for intelligent curation, search, and browsing experiences that we've discussed, we've talked about how those improve revenue for Lucidworks e-commerce customers. And one of our customer champions at Lenovo, Mark, shared that Fusion has improved their conversion rate by 50% over what they were seeing before migrating to Fusion. And here are a few other customers that are using Lucidworks Fusion for digital commerce to give you a sense of some of the range there. I do want to move forward so we can get to some of the questions. Just a quick overview for folks that might be new to Lucidworks before we get to questions. Here's a little bit more about us as a company. We have a major global presence with support operations that cover every time zone in the world. We have about 230 employees and more than 400 customers across the global Fortune 1000. We're headquartered in San Francisco, California, with another major U.S. office in North Carolina, as well as global offices in the United Kingdom, India, and Hong Kong. And Peter, tell us about Sears 10.
Yeah, we're a boutique in Seattle. We have been in business 10 years. We've got a subsidiary in London, so we can cover people in Europe and the United States, and you can reach us on our website.
And I see skeletons in the closet crossed off. I hope that wasn't me missing an edit on the slide.
Yeah, we try not to have any skeletons in the closet.
Okay, great. So we do have a question that came in, and the question was about sharing some information on customers who've adopted Lucidworks AI in recent releases. I think you have some experience there that you could share, right, Peter?
Well, we've got 3 implementations of Fusion for going on right now. I think the version is 4.2.1, maybe. I don't know the exact version number, but it's certainly I think one is 4.1. I think all 3 of them are 4.2, but one of them could be a 4.1 version. So definitely some companies out there implementing. I don't know if we can name them, but
yeah, let's hold specific. We'll hold specific company names, but what you were referring to, Peter, was just the most recent release. We have other customers running on earlier versions that also had AI involved. And of course, for the individual who asked the question and anybody else, we'd be happy to go into more detail on. We've seen these patterns a lot. We're very familiar with how to use AI to improve the e-commerce experience, and so part of our responsibility as a company is working with our clients to share those best practices and help them take advantage of them in their own business. Call out for other questions. Well, we have certainly shared plenty of information. This recording will be available on our website. We hope this overview is helpful for everybody. I definitely enjoyed preparing this presentation and giving this presentation with you, Peter. Really want to thank you for taking the time to share some of your insight with our audience.
Yeah, thanks, Justin. Good doing this with you too.
And let me give out one last shout out for any questions. All right, well, if questions occur to you, you can always reach out to either one of us, get in touch with us at Lucidworks or Sears 10. And with that, this will conclude the webinar. Thank you.
Goodbye.